Hey Harvey, Miss Gonzalez here. Okay, today we're going to be taking notes on how do I multiply decimals. Okay, so that's the same as your EQ. So make sure you have drawn in your Cornell lines to take Cornell notes. And you guys should have your handout that I gave you, your hundreds grid. Just kind of glue it down. Give yourself some room there. Okay, that's glued down. Now, we're going to take a look at how we would multiply decimals using a hundreds grid. And if you have a colored pencil, you can use a colored pencil. You just need one color. So we're going to take a look at, first of all, the problem 8/10 multiplied by 2/10. So we can find the product of that. And remember, product is your answer to a multiplication problem. Alright, so first what we're going to do, we're going to, and I'm sorry, this should be 8/10. We're going to shade in 8/10. Remember on the hundreds grid, one of these rows is considered a tenth, either going down or going across. So all I'm going to do is shade in. Here's 8/10. I'm sorry, there's 1/10. Here's 2/10. 3/10. Doesn't have to be perfect either. Here's 4/10. 5/10. 6/10. 7. Okay, make sure you're shading that in, not jamming out to Meghan Trainor. Make sure you're getting this shaded in correctly. Alright, so we have 8/10 shaded in. Okay, so there's 8/10 there. Now you're going to want definitely a different color. It needs to be darker than what you used to shade that in. Hopefully you guys can see that on, I wonder if it looks better if I turn on this light. Any better? Let me see. Looks maybe about the same. Alright, so I'm just going to shade in just a tad bit darker so you can see where I've shaded in. But you can see that it's shaded in because these are not. Alright, so we shaded in 8/10, right? Now, and I'm just going to use a pen. So I'm going to use dots to represent the 2/10. But for 2/10, I'm going to go across. I'm going to use rows. So I'm going to use dots. So that's 1/10, right? That's 1/10, but I need 2/10. And here's 2/10. Okay, now in order for you to get your answer, what you're looking at is you're looking at where the two colors overlap, or where you have a dot and the shaded in color. How many squares do I have? Well, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So there's 16 squares where you have the two shaded in, or where the two are overlapping. 16 out of 100, that's 16 hundredths. So you're going to write that as your answer, 16 hundredths. And we just used a hundreds grid to model how to solve 8/10 times 2/10. So we didn't even multiply. Let's take a look at another one. Let's see you guys how you. Let's take a look at 4/10 times 5/10. Alright, so again we're going to shade in 4/10, and I'm going to use the columns to represent the 4/10. Here's 2/10, 3/10, and here's 4/10, right? Alright, so here's 4/10 shaded in. Now I need to shade in 5/10, and I'm just going to use a dot or dots to represent 1/10. That's 1/10, right? I'm going to shade in 2/10 now. Now 3/10, 4/10, and 5/10. Right? You guys check me on that, make sure. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Alright, so now you're going to count up how many squares are you showing where you have the blue shaded in and the dot. So if you count them up, you're going to count up, you have 20 squares shaded in where the two are overlapping. 20 out of 100 is 20 hundredths, right? So how do we write that? 20 hundredths. Okay, let's take a look at another one. So let's take a look at, let's say we have 6/10 times 3/10. Alright, so we're going to shade in 6/10. Okay, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, finally 6/10. Okay, so we have 6/10 shaded in, and then I need to shade in 3/10, but going across, and again we're going to use dots to represent that. There's 2/10, and here's 3/10. Everybody agree that is 3/10 that we're shaded in now? Okay, here's 1, 2, 3/10 across. Now you count up how many squares you have where the two colors overlap, and you'll count that up, and it's 18, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 out of 100, right? So you write that as 18 hundredths. So there's your answer, 18 hundredths. I didn't even have to do any multiplication, right? So that's how you would use a hundredths grid to multiply decimals. Now let's take a look at how we would multiply decimals without the models. So I'm going to write off to the side over here, steps to multiply decimals. Alright, so steps to multiply decimals. So step 1, you're going to rewrite, let me move that up. You're going to rewrite the problem vertically. Remember, vertically, that means up and down. So rewrite it vertically. So this over here, that's horizontally, right? So you're going to rewrite it vertically without the decimals. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, multiply like normal. And then step 3, so we took out the decimals in step 1, right? So in step 3, you're going to add the decimals in. So what you're going to do, you're going to count how many numbers, are behind the decimal in the original problem. Oops, sorry guys. Okay, so you count how many numbers are behind the decimal in the original problem to determine where your decimal goes in your answer. So let's take a look at an example. Actually, let's take a look at a couple examples. So here we go, example 1. So let's take a look at, let's say 23 hundredths times, why did I write an X? 23 hundredths, make sure y'all get that correct. 23 hundredths times 3/10. Okay, so again, that's 23 hundredths. Alright, so 23 hundredths. So step 1 says we're going to rewrite the problem vertically without the decimal. So let's do that. We're going to rewrite it vertically, and since this one actually has more numbers in it, then we're going to actually put this one first. We're going to rewrite the problem vertically without decimals, so we're just going to ignore the decimal. So we're going to rewrite it as 23 times 3. Okay, is everybody good with that? Alright, and then step 2 says you're going to multiply like normal, so just multiply like normal. So we'll take 3 times 3, which is 9, and then 3 times 2 is 6. Step 3 says you're going to count how many numbers are behind the decimal in the original problem. So let's go back to the original problem here. Right here we have 1, 2, 2 numbers behind the decimal, and over here we have 1 number. How many is that in total? 1, 2, 3, right? So since your original problem has 3 numbers behind the decimals, then this answer needs to have 3 numbers behind the decimal. So what you'll need to do is figure out, okay, it has to have 3 numbers behind the decimal. This is only 2, so you're going to have to add a 0 for that third number because we need 3 numbers behind the decimal, and then place your 0. Now we have 3 numbers behind the decimal, right? 3 numbers behind the decimal. So your answer here is actually 69 thousandths. Let's look at another one. So let's do example 2 over here because we actually have room. Example 2. So let's take a look at 52 hundredths times 41 hundredths. Alright, so step 1 says you're going to rewrite the number, or rewrite the problem vertically without the decimals. So we're going to take a look, we're going to write 52 times 41. So step 2 says you're going to multiply like normal. So we're going to multiply it. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 5 is 5. Have your 0. 4 times 2 is 8, and then 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so let's add this. 8 plus 5 is 13, carry your 1. Alright, oops, that should be a 2. Alright, so now we're going to go back to the original problem. We're going to count how many numbers are behind the decimals, and that's how many numbers need to be behind the decimal in your answer. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means the decimal has to have 4 numbers behind it, and just placing it here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you have 4 numbers behind your decimal, and there's your answer. So let's look at another one. Let's do example 3. We want to make sure we have plenty of practice on this. So example 3. Let's take, this time let's do 4.5 times 12 hundredths. Or 4 5/10 times 12 hundredths. That's how I should really say it. Alright, so we're going to, let me move that up. So, you're getting the glare from my table there. We're going to line it up vertically without the decimals. So you're going to make that 45 times 12. And then you're just going to multiply it like normal. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, that's 9. 5 times 1 is 5. And 4 times 1 is 4. So you add that up. It's 14. That's 5. Alright, so now we got to go back to our original problem. You had 1 number behind the decimal here, and then 2 numbers behind the decimal. That makes 3 numbers behind the decimal. So my answer has to have 3 numbers behind it. So you place it here. And that's 1, 2, 3. Yep, 3 numbers behind the decimal. Okay, let's work one more. So let's say you have 25. You have a whole number. 25 times 1 25 hundredths. So again, you're going to line them up vertically without the decimals. And since this one has more numbers in it, I'm going to put that one first because that's how we normally multiply. So we're going to put that 125 times 25. And then just multiply it like normal. 5 times 5, that's 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 1 is 1, plus 1 is 6. Carry 0 down. Okay, so 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then 2 times 1 is 2. Alright, so that's 5. That's 2. Oops, can you see that? Alright, 6 plus 5 is 11. And then 2 plus 1, that's 3. So let's go back to our original problem. No decimals here, but we do have decimals over here. You have 2 numbers behind the decimal. So now I need to figure out, okay, where do I place that decimal? Well, I just need 2 numbers behind the decimal. So if I place the decimal here, that's 2 numbers behind the decimal, right? All right, we good there? All right, so you guys are gonna get some practice problems here in a moment. I would like for you guys to write your reflection. So if you have to go to the back side of that, if you would just do reflection, today I learned, or I'm still confused. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.